Now, something that we have to consider when including an image is what happens if the user selects no image. If you look very closely, you'll see that there will be a broken image box. So here you'll see there's that alignment and there's a broken image. There's no image specified. Now that's a problem. How are we going to make sure that if the user doesn't want an image, that the one's not going to appear? The easiest way that we can do that is with a checkbox, but also with EverWeb's Widget API event properties. Events lets you respond to user input when they select something within the inspector. For example, when they check a box, when they select something from a drop-down menu, or when they enter something in a text field. So to use this, we're going to use some special features. First, we're going to add a new checkbox. That's going to allow us to control whether or not we want to include an image. So we'll give this a unique name. We'll give it a label. Save, go back, and we'll see we have our include image checkbox. Now, right now, that's not doing much. So let's give it some functionality. First, we want to include it above our select image. Second, we want to start using our event action and event open. Event action means that when the checkbox is clicked, either turned on or turned off, this event will fire. And when that event fires, we can include some special code. The code that we want to include here would be that if this checkbox is checked, then we should enable the select image button. If it's not checked, then we need to disable it. So to do that, we're going to look at some internal methods that EverWeb provides in order to know a property of a control, for example, is it checked or not, and to set it to be enabled or disabled. So to start, we're going to have to create a new variable that will hold the value of our checkbox, whether it's on or off. So whether the value is true, which means it's checked, or false, which means it's not checked. So we declare a variable, and we're going to set that variable to the property of that checkbox. So we're going to use the get control property value. So we'll paste get control property value here, and we need to reference our control using its internal, its variable option name. So in this case, the PLEW include image. So we'll paste that in there. And we also need to specify what property we want. For the checkbox, to know if it's clicked or not, we use the value property. There are many properties for controls. For example, you could get the position using left, top, width, or height. You can get text for a text field by using text, and many other properties that are included in the user manual. So here we're going to specify that we want the value property. So now our b value variable is going to include either true or false based on whether or not our include image checkbox is checked. So we're going to do an if statement to see if the value is true, then we can enable our select image button. So if b value equals true, then, and here we'll use the set control enable function. And just like our get control property value, we need to specify the variable name of the control we want to manipulate. So our select image control, copy and paste that name. And we need to set this to either true to enable or false to disable the control. So because our checkbox is set to true here, we'll set this to true also. Now, if there's any other value, for example, it's false, because that's the only other value that this property could possibly be, we're going to set our control to be disabled. So we'll copy and paste this line, and I'll set this to false. Now, actually, we do not need these quotes here because it will not be a String value, it'll just be true or false. And then we end our if statement, we save our code, we save our widget, and when we go back to EverWeb, if we click include image, you'll see it's enabled. And we unselect this option, you'll see that this button is now disabled. However, we still have one little issue. I've disabled this option, and when I click away and then click back, our control is automatically enabled again, even though this option is disabled. In order to fix this, we need to go back to our widget editor and we need to use our event open command. This command is called whenever the control is loaded. So when we first click our control and all of our controls are loaded here, this event is going to fire for each control. So I can actually use the same code from my event action in my event open. So I'll copy this code, I'll click the edit button, and I'll paste it into my event open field. Click OK. When I save and go back to EverWeb, now you can see this option is disabled. If I click include image, click away and come back, it's enabled. So we now have this interactive UI. However, we still have our border for our missing image. And that's because we haven't actually done a check in our HTML code for whether or not this option is selected. We've already covered our if-then statements for our checkboxes, but I'll show that to you quickly one more time here. So go back to widget settings, go back to HTML code, and we're going to make sure that we only include this image code if our include image checkbox is selected. So just like we did before, we'll double click. So our variable name is entered, but we don't need these last characters. We include our brackets, true, because if it's set to true, we want to include this code. Otherwise, we don't want to include this code. And we just need to end our variable. We click OK, save our widget, go back to EverWeb. And if we make any small change, we'll see that square is now gone. If we include it, the square is there because we still need to specify our image. If we turn it off, no image. If we turn it on, our image appears.